Which is getting so hard. For that, I can't see it.
Okay, thank you.
This is Beulah. Alyssa, can you pop in Anthony Tumolo's office? Real quick, can you pop in Anthony Tumolo's office and let him know that the board meeting starts at 5?
Did you say?
Anthony Tumolo.
Yeah.
He's presenting tonight. I think he stayed.
He was in his office.
Yeah.
All right, welcome everybody to today's board meeting. The Board of Education will be meeting in person Tuesday, August 19th at 5 p.m. If members wish to attend the meeting virtually, there's a link in YouTube. All right, so I'm going to do a call to order. The meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act and is open to the media and public. Notices were duly posted and the meeting was advertised in the Hunterdon County Democrat and Courier News. Formal action may be taken. We get a roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Cassidy.
Here.
Mrs. Fiore.
Here.
Mr. Lopes.
Here.
Mrs. Menzer.
Here.
Mr. Fierros. Here. Mrs. Radden. Mrs. Ryan.
Here.
Mrs. Pinto.
Here.
Mr. Rizzo.
Here.
One is absent.
Okay, thank you. All right, flight sleep. To the flag of the United States of America.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. To start the superintendent's report this evening, I'd like to invite Mr. Tumalo to come and present the HIV self-assessment that we'll be discussing with the board. Mr. Tumalo.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Glad to be here. So, as many of you know, I serve as the district supervisor for special projects and anti-bullying coordinator as well. And I'll be presenting our results from 2024-2025 harassment, intimidation, and bullying self-assessment. So for all schools. And also there'll be identified areas of strength and focus for next year, the upcoming year. So just to kind of go through the process for determining and submitting the scores, our process for the assessment is detailed and collaborative. Each school climate team is led by a building administrator and completes the self-assessment with the team. These results are then reviewed by our anti-bullying specialists, our principals, and myself. And once the data is compiled and approved, it's presented to all of you at the Board of Ed meeting. So following tonight's presentation, just so you know, the scores will be entered onto New Jersey's Department of Education's website for official submission. Finally, once the state releases the official grade report, we post it on the district website. So that takes a little bit of time to get that. So just to kind of break down the actual assessment, there are 8 core elements that are included. There's HIV programming, training on the BOE approved HIV policy, other staff instruction training programs, there's curriculum instruction specific to HIV related skills, HIV personnel, school level HIV incident reporting, and the procedures for investigating, and then what does that look like for reporting that information out when the investigation takes place. Each of the 26 total indicators are scored on a scale from 0 to 3, with 3 meaning that we exceed requirements. The highest possible total score is a 78, meeting all requirements for each indicator results in a score of 52, just so you have that understanding. So anything above that reflects areas where we go beyond the standard. Questions so far? So I've explained this piece already, right? We talked about the breakdown. So here are the results. So for Three Bridges, there was a score of 78, White House 78, Hollenbrook 78, and then Reddington Middle School 76. And that again is out of a total possible 78. So this means that all of our schools are performing at or near the highest possible level in the state's assessment framework based on their reflection. So some areas of strength, which I'd like to highlight, we have from core element 1, our programming, our approaches, and our initiatives are fairly strong. They've been in place for several years. Of course, we can always improve, but they are having a strong effect on our kids and in our schools. Core element number 6, school level HIV incident reporting procedures. Our procedures, again, we've come across some glitches in our procedures. We've identified those over the course of the last couple of years, but I feel like we have really streamlined and tightened our procedures even more so than before. Core element number 7, again, that investigation procedure, and then our reporting procedures are areas of strength. There are 2 areas that we identified for next year, or for this upcoming year, to really focus on. And one is specifically to strengthen training, particularly focusing on preventing HIV on the basis of protected categories, distinguishing characteristics. We haven't really targeted that lately, and that is something that I think that we can focus more on, meaning training for our staff, but also our students. What does that mean? Distinguishing characteristics, let's break that down. So in the lessons that we provide, having that conversation with them, and what does that mean and look like? So we're going to look at some of our lessons from the counseling department and how we can tighten that up. And then core number 3, which is enhancing professional development for our school safety and climate teams. We've done training for anti-bullying specialists, which is wonderful, But now I think just providing training for the team itself on what do we do? What is our purpose? What are we focusing on? So that's something that we're gonna do as well. And that can include procedural changes. So I believe you have the access to, that was in the memo?
The memo, we have the memo.
Correct, yeah, so that's access to just our history of our cases, our investigations that took place, numbers of conflict versus numbers of actual findings of bullying and HIV. So that is in there, you'll see that comparison. So basically our timeline for submission, we'll enter our self-assessment scores. As I said, the deadline is due October 31st, but I'm gonna do it tomorrow just to get it in, it's all done. And once the data is entered, we'll certify the results for the state of assurances, and then once we get that official district score, I'll post it on the website for public view. So thanks, I'm proud of our work. I feel like we work really hard. It's a difficult task, I think, that our anti-bullying specialists have to have, and I think we take it very seriously, and we're always open to making changes and making it the best for our district that we can do. Thanks. Any questions? Yeah, please.
So I was reading through the history and the way the table is presented. At the very end, it says the total number of district-wide HIV cases, which is both the investigated conflicts and the confirmed HIV. And I was just wondering if that language is mandated, because it seems like it's the total number of investigated cases.
It's not, that was just from that, this was homegrown, that was,
Okay.
we never had this before, I just kind of started doing it, but it could be, we can call it whatever we
It
feel.
looks like it's the total number of investigated cases, because the ones that were findings of HIV are a subset of that. And I just don't want it to be misrepresenting
Perfect,
what the findings were.
perfect, I can make that change. Thank you for that. Same question, yeah. Anything else?
Well, yeah, just to add to that, because
Go ahead,
when I was looking it over, and like Pam was just saying, the last column says total number of district-wide hit cases, looks like they were going up throughout the years, but when you really look at it, they were not confirmed hits, they were conflicts.
It's exactly, and that's what we've
Okay.
known is our trend, and this is statewide actually, they're finding that the number of investigations, the conflicts it's found there's more conflict versus actual findings of HIV. That number is decreasing and has been since COVID. And we're finding that in our district as well.
The other thing I'll mention, Mr. Tumolo, is we talk about this all the time. We don't necessarily, it's good to have fewer reported cases, but sometimes the amount of reported cases is a healthy indicator that at least children are reporting, or they're noticing, or staff are noticing potential bullying cases where they require investigation. So while we, sometimes joke, like, don't jinx it, we haven't gotten, a report in a month, we know that there will be reports. We know that we want to identify any cases that need to be investigated. So I don't want to set the expectation for the board that they're going to trend down to really low numbers or zero. I think it's a healthy expectation to say we want children to report, we want adults to report. We just want to kind of balance how many cases are conflict versus how many are truly HIV. And if there are more that are truly HIV, then we have
Then there's
some
something
work
we
to
have
be
to look
done.
at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that if we're educating and providing this language to kids, then yeah, they might be using it and be more aware, and that's kind of what we want, right? So I agree, yeah. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Mr. Tumolo.
Thank you.
The next item on the superintendent's report is to give you a very brief overview of the referendum. We have begun our launch of our public campaign for the referendum. This week, it included my newsletter that went out to all parents and families on Monday. It also included, we welcomed the new teachers Monday as well, and I definitely put in a little plug as I was doing my address to the new teachers that the referendum is going to be big work this year. We have some new teachers that are also community members. But we're really launching our public campaign with the start of the school year. We're coinciding with the start of the school year. We have some big events coming up. We welcome all teachers back next week. We have back to school nights, our key communicators meeting. We have some community events. So if you didn't see, outside the board conference room is a table that's set up. And this is a prototype table of a kit that Jason and I have put together. Any public event that any of us go to, Jason, myself, any board member, my office and Jason's office each has a kit with our tablecloth, the Reddington logos, the posters, the 2-pagers that you have in front of you, small business cards, a laptop computer with the video and instructions on how to set it up in case you're going solo to an event or something like that. So, you know, whether we're at a back to school night, whether we're at a key communicators meeting or something like that, we have a table that we can set up and we can talk to community members and families about the referendum. So that's really what, if you didn't see it, as you leave, make sure you take a look. We have Jason, let me just borrow this one. We have our 2-pager that, you know, has our key talking points on the front, and then it has a partial list of projects on the back. We've ordered plenty of these, but we can always go back to our printer and order more. If any member of the public hasn't taken one, make sure you stop at the table on the way out and grab one of these, and you can grab a little business card as well. If you want to grab a few, you can grab a few and bring them home and hand them out to friends and family. Remember, board members, our key talking points, and I'll type them up and put them in the kit as well. In order to unlock the funding from the state, the $12 million of state aid, the referendum has to pass. Otherwise, we don't get access to that $12 million of funding. And remember, the balance is we unlock the funding, we get 83 projects with a net zero increase to the taxpayer. In fact, taxes, according to the calculations we've done on an average assessed home, will go down by $17 a year. So those are some of the key talking points. You know, you get 83 projects and you don't have to necessarily see the tax impact, which is our real selling point for the referendum. So stop at the table on the way out, take a look at the poster, take some handouts, pass them out, and just remember those key talking points. In addition, you'll start to see over the course of the next couple of days, we have large banners for the outside of each school building. The fence in front of RMS, which is a key traffic area as cars pass by, we have a big banner that says unlocking funding for the future and the date of the bond referendum vote. We also have posters and banners for each of our 4 preschool private providers who've all agreed to hang up referendum materials. And Jason and I will be visiting their open houses over the course of the next week to hand out any materials to our parents of the private providers. So we are ready to launch. We're really launching it's on the website as well. Our referendum page is linked on the website. It's one of the tiles on the homepage. Any questions about the referendum before Jason and I talk about capital projects and the EV bus grant?
Just quickly, this looks great. They did a really nice job putting this together. The other piece for the consultant was the videos.
Yes.
What is that timeline? What does that look like? Because the vote by mail will be going out, later September.
I should also thank you, Beth, for reminding me. I should say to the board too, the mailer. There's a mailer that's going to go out to every home in Reddington. That's due to go out the week after Labor Day. So a mailer should go out. I think that's, I want to say about a week or 2 weeks before the vote by mail ballots should arrive in mailboxes. And then the videos, I reviewed the scripts for the videos. Jason and I made sure that the numbers all worked. We reviewed the scripts, we cleaned up a little bit of language, but video production is underway. And Lori, our communications consultant, has started to time Facebook posts. So we're going to start with Facebook posts about open houses, back to school, everything like that, and then start to sprinkle in referendum events, ideas, big videos, things that are coming up. In the newspaper, you should see at the September edition an advertisement for all of the board meetings where we'll be doing referendum tours at Three Bridges White House and then Hollywood and RMS. So that's going to be in the newspaper as well. Thanks for that reminder.
Is there a second mailing getting closer to November?
We didn't plan a second mailing. We planned one mailing to go out right before the ballots come out.
And do you have ads in the newspaper, I'm sorry?
We do, yeah, so
So that can go also out.
this, we took this, I wanna say, for,
Sorry.
that's okay. September's Chronicle will have, the dates for all of the board meetings and tours. The October Chronicle will have, I wanna say, a half-page ad with this front and back. Then the November Chronicle will have this half-page ad again, front and back. So the Chronicle will have this each time as well, until November.
Just something to consider is that I think the vote by mail in September is only a smaller percentage of the people that actually vote. That's starting October 25th, I think, right around the end of October. Don't know if there's budget for second mailing that might be beneficial, just when the majority of the people vote is, yeah.
I'd have to get the price quote. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's a couple $1,000s, you know, if it's something that the board wants to invest in a second mailer, we can just take the production that we have of the first part and we could just resend it again the last week of October. If that's something that the board wants to do.
Probably 80% of the voters are there,
person.
and then 20 are gonna be the vote by mail roughly, so
Yeah.
I don't know what everyone else thinks. Second mailer, thoughts?
We've got time.
Delay like this, is it already like scheduled to go out or?
I think it's scheduled, but I can look into delaying it. I don't want to miss the vote by mail folks too.
Is there
Like I want to do
communication?
the other communication that will be going out between the mailer that goes after Labor Day and then actual election day will be the ads in the Chronicle. You know, the Chronicle usually times it arrives in your homes, let's say, you know, the November 1st, right? November that first day, like a couple days before election day. But it's possible. I mean, I
I don't
can,
know if Lori had any,
I don't want to delay the mailing too much because I want to get the vote from the vote by
Definitely
mail.
the way the first one.
There's gonna be quite a bit of other political mail coming around the same time, so I worry if we do another mailing, it's just gonna get caught in the junk mail. I wonder if the Chronicle ads might be more effective, because it will be
That's
more
what you
targeted
both-
for us.
Yeah.
Plus, I worry about our budget as the chair of finance committee.
Yeah, the ads in the newspaper are considerably cheaper, so I would go all out on a bigger ad or 2 ads if you really.
We actually were gonna do like a whole page and then a whole page, but that was, I think it was a little too much. I believe we might even be able to, we might have time to take this, let me look into it, to take this and it can be an insert in the Chronicle as well, something like this, that would just be a paper insert. I have to look into the cost as well. Don't forget, we'll have a Facebook presence, we'll have those videos, the Chronicle, the back to school nights. I mean, hopefully folks will take all of the information and hold on to it for election day, or at least have a knowledge of it when they go to the ballot box on election day. We also have a couple of months of feed, you can't hear?
Yeah,
We-
it's loud, so
Sorry.
thank you.
We also will have, the other thing I was gonna mention too, we'll have a couple of months of feedback as well. So we'll start our board tours to different buildings. I'm hoping the community is engaged. We can put some FAQ documents out on our website as well. If we find that I don't want to make a commitment now because I want to see what feedback we might receive, and if there's a move that we may need to have a different approach to our marketing materials by the time we hit election day, we might want to just wait and see how our community receives the marketing materials as is before we decide to make a change, if that's fair. We've got time. We have 2 board meetings in September, and then we have October before we have to make any kind of decision. And everything is done, so it's just a matter of generating another purchase order and printing more materials. So we can turn it around within a week or so. Any other questions? Take a look at the table on the way out too, and there's the computer set up and everything. Matt, let's go to the summer capital projects for, Jason and I are gonna present summer capital projects. So at the end of every summer, we take time in August to celebrate the work that our maintenance and facilities crew, as well as our technology crew, accomplished over the summer in terms of our capital projects. So these are capital projects as well as maintenance projects that we accomplished over the course of the summer. So a huge thank you first to our facilities and our IT department. And we even had some volunteers and some vendors from the community that really do help refresh, revitalize, and provide maintenance for our schools. So here's our facilities department, all their, I don't know, do they know that we have this slide in here? I hope they do. So here's our facilities department, both of our facilities folks as well as our custodial crews in each of the buildings. And here's our tech department. Matt's here tonight, so thank Matt for all of our tech work tonight as well. We have accomplished a number of not only facilities projects, but maintenance, technology projects over the summer as well. So to go through them in brief, first I want to point out process. This time last year, the board and the administration began some discussions with going around and gathering feedback from district staff, the administration, the HSA, the RTEA, the township committee about renovations, projects, enhancements that we can make to our grounds and our physical plan. And we had a very inclusive process for developing the projects and prioritizing projects for the referendum. And members of the board know that there was no shortage of ideas that came from teachers, from staff, from community members and parents for projects to be included in the referendum. And not everything made it. But what was great about this process was Jason and I were able to look through along with the board and prioritize what really needed to be in the referendum and take any other ideas we had and put it on a maintenance or capital project list and make it happen for the teachers and the staff. And we haven't made everything happen just yet, but there was a lot of feedback that we received from the staff that we've been able to make happen over the course of the summer. Board members may remember that the principal at RMS talked a little bit about the art room, the music room. The music teachers really wanted some new storage for instruments. That happened with the RMS as well as the music rooms here at Hollenbrook. You'll notice when we did our tours, remember Hollenbrook School, we talked about enhancing the bleachers and then the gym wall mats, just things that were in disrepair and not only functionally but aesthetically we wanted to improve. Three Bridges, we enhanced the water boiler, we installed water filling stations. There's a retaining wall, we have some pictures for you, and some stage lighting and sounds. We also renovated kindergarten and first grade rooms to accommodate the additional sections of teachers that we added at Three Bridges in the summer. We did some garden drainage at White House School, we did the stage lights as well, and we enhanced the staff bathroom. And we also expanded our preschool program. We set up a new class at Global Pioneer and a new classroom at Berry Patch. The other thing about Berry Patch as well is they were able to do some work to their parking lot to allow a full-size school bus to go into their parking lot and turn around so that we didn't have to stop on the county road to let 3 and 4-year-olds off the bus. So we can have a bus pulled into the parking lot now, which is great. And then we did some IT switches, some wireless access points, painting around the district. We've made some serious movements on our solar project and much more that we'll go into detail on and show you in some pictures, because pictures worth 1,000 words. Do you want to add anything to this slide? The accountant in a few words. We're going to get them talking in a minute. Status of projects. Majority of projects have been complete or they're nearing completion. It's August. We will do some punch list items over the next week or so. There are some shipping delays that we encountered with some of our projects. IT upgrades were not only planned for this summer, but there are some projects that will continue through the school year with very little, no disruption to kids. We can do them on, days off and holidays and things like that. And solar expansion. Jason has been really instrumental in working with our vendor as well as our attorney to make sure that we had a commitment to get solar completed by July 2026, to make sure that we have, are eligible for the federal tax credit. And I believe that we're in pretty good shape, right?
All 4 schools are moving forward. They've been submitted, so all 4 schools have been submitted to the state to move forward. So the plans are on the BPU to be approved, and then once that gets approved and we get the permits from the township, we'll move forward with construction. So, but just to go through some photos of the major projects. First, we do a lot of painting every summer, so our custodians and maintenance basically have repainted almost every single school. The principals have a list of priorities of what to paint, but we always show off the RMS hallways because if you ever had an older child, we had chipped tiles and discolored missing tiles. So they have completely renovated the entire middle school, painted the lockers over the years, so it looks fantastic. Going along with this, we replaced some doors, and some of the things that the music department was asking for have not been done over the years, which has been other priorities with reserve money. So we've been able to create a music lesson room at Hollenbrook for individual lessons. So sometimes you see the children doing individual lessons outside or next to another classroom and being very loud and noisy and disrupting. There is now an instrument one-on-one area in Hollenbrook. So they were able to put a window and a door to make that happen and clear out that space, which is great. Access points, we talked about this. This is for internet, stronger internet, which pretty much everyone wants at all times. That's the way of the future and how everyone uses everything nowadays. So IT is working hard on that. That's the project that will be over the course of the year. They started this summer with the critical places that they needed to, and then they're going to do ancillary over the years. This is something I really want to highlight. So our maintenance department, we sent out for training. So that way we could start working on HVAC in-house. So it took about a full year to get a couple of the guys trained, but this is saving us money. I mean, they're literally just buying parts and repairing things and making sure the heat and AC are continuing running. So they sent me this photo and I thought I would share it. It should pay long term because it's harder to get those vendors out now. So it's gonna be quicker repairs, cheaper repairs. So it's fantastic that we were able to accomplish that. Staff bathrooms, we always look at bathrooms to refresh. We refreshed most of the student bathrooms about 3 or 4 years ago. So now we're looking at staff bathrooms, which are much easier to update because usually they're smaller. It's usually just painting and vanities. So this is an example of one. Gaga pits. I know a lot of people don't know what Gaga is, but kids are obsessed with it. It's basically like dodgeball below the knee. So if you hit the ball out of bounds, you're out. If you get hit with the ball below the knee, you're out. So we have now these at every building and the undermats, so that way if kids fall, it's on a rubberized surface. So that's what we installed. And this was installed again in-house by custodians and maintenance. White House School, I just had to include this photo again because Harbin's local vendor did this gardens. Phenomenal. Rutgers Master Gardeners come out and volunteer their time. Actually, it's a former board member and former staff member also that come out and do this. We improved the drainage on the one side. You see where the rocks are on the left side of this photo. So that way the runoff from now the impervious-like surface goes into a French drain and out of the building. Water heaters, so that this was part of the referendum. There was projects that didn't make it, very small dollar amounts, but we just wanted to make sure that we were replacing and being kept up to date. So here are some water heaters, and there's also a water boiler that will replace. Retaining walls, I think there's one retaining wall left at 3 bridges that needs to be replaced, but this is right at the front of the school. So this is where every parent sees, looking good for the start of the year, which is great, and now safe. We replaced the concrete in the front about 3 or 4 years ago. Stage lights and sound. So we have been redoing the stage lights and sounds at the middle school and at Hollenbrook for performances for the parents. So Three Bridges and White House got jealous. HSA has been, Performing Arts Committee has been talking to us about redoing things. We finally hit the last two schools, which is Three Bridges and White House. And there was a couple parents that said that the lights in the back were not bright enough, so the kids were in the dark. So we want to make sure that we enhance the lights so that way all the kids get the shining light on their safety. So that was just enhanced at both places, as well as microphones and performance stuff. Water bottle fillers, we do this every year, but we're getting near the end of replacing all of the old porcelain with water bottle fillers. That's pretty become the norm that kids just carry around the stainless steel containers now. They get bought and that's what they drink, which is good for the environment, good for the kids. And all of these, for the most part, we not only have filters for the water coming in, which most of ours are from well, but these also have filters on them. And some of them have cooling, so it's not just, it's good, clean water that's cold, which is just something to note. And a lot of this we use cafeteria money for, so it's not even taxpayer money. We're just using surplus funds, which is really good for our government. Kindergarten, first grade room. So, we added a kindergarten, first grade room for this coming school year. So these were renovated by the maintenance department, ready to go. Teachers have to set them up right now. So should be good. We have a little bit of increased enrollment at the Three Bridges side of town. A lot of people moving in. So it's not really a lot of new housing in that side of town, but there's people moving into the existing homes, which is actually increasing our population on that side of town, which we did not anticipate. We've been looking more at the White House side of town because that's where the construction's been happening, but we've actually been seeing the increase more on the Three Bridges side, despite not having increased housing really over there. We talked about another Gaga pit. And then bleacher repairs. So these are some more referendum projects. We repaired the bleachers. Also with the bleachers, there's wall mats and things like that that are going to be repaired. The middle school art room. I don't know if anyone's been in the art room at middle school. It's amazing. So the entire ceiling is removed, so you can see all the back end, electric, plumbing, HVAC. So it really is like, inspires you to like be an engineer and architect. And the tables are solid wood. So our team refinished them, lacquered them. We also put in the art teacher was asking for electric drop downs. So we put them over the tables so that way they could do some heavy construction art projects. So, if the child comes back injured, probably because of this electric cord that was installed. But we also have some other stuff later on. We redid most of the art room cabinetry, which is second week of September. Music department, we did some safety enhancements, as well as shelving for more storage. We replaced everything in the middle music room at RMS. So there's actually 3 rooms there. And this one is for private lessons. So this space is now available for students to do one-on-one instruction. This was a storage space for the most part. So this has been completely cleaned out, all new furniture, and this is where the lessons will happen, as well as the music teachers now obviously having storage for their music sheets and ability to create. Stage floor at Brenington Middle School got redone. They chose very dark, so to, I guess, make it pop. It was a selection based on the committee over there, Performing Arts. So that just got redone. We previously redid the sound system and some light work over there as well. So we moved asbestos floor in middle school. So that's getting new tile. That's actually finished at the middle school. So that's good for HERA purposes. Preschool, we're now in 16 classrooms. And this is just another photo of the classrooms that we renovate. It's fantastic. I mean, parents, there's such high demand because the parents see the classrooms and it's all brand new, beautiful, safe, secure. We had partnered with the police department to walk through, enhance security everywhere. So this is, the teachers that are selected for these new rooms really appreciate everything because basically they can just jump in and start teaching. And it's a great way for parents to get into the district, see the hard work of the district, and then continue the rest of their time frame here. So this was another Spacing Global that was redone. This is actually where kids come in and out and parents pick up. And then we obviously put in some new hardware for lock purposes. Most of the daycares actually do not have locks on their classroom doors. So that was one of the first priorities of the police department at the walkthroughs. So Berry Patch, this is nearing the end of them setting up their classroom there. We did some bathrooms. This is an indoor play area, so this was actually all storage in their basement. But there's two doors that go right to the playground. They emptied out the entire basement and made it an indoor space. So when it rains, the kids have somewhere to play. So they'll can put down toys and other things for them to utilize when it's wet or cold outside. But this is the big one. Buses were parking and letting kids out on a main road for the past year and a half at Berry Patch. So we had 3 to 4 buses emptying out 3 and 4-year-olds on the main road, stopping traffic for a year and a half. It caused not only delays in town, but obviously it's not super safe. We put in fences as a temporary thing, but now we were able to get a wire lifted, which allowed us to get the buses in, and we removed part of the front gardens to allow the bus to make the curve. So the buses are now going to get in, let off right in front of the school. Safety 100 times better. And this was a major undertaking for the past year to finally get that wire lifted. Got some new school buses. So you see those right there. And what wasn't accomplished, the R cabinets, these are second week of September. They're going to deliver the first week of September. They're actually going to work at night. The cabinets are already gone. So it's really just installing new ones. The storage, the art teacher already packed up and moved storage to an area right next door and on the other side of the room. So she's ready to go for the rest of the year. The gym wall mats, if you've been at RMS, these are the gym mats there, and they line the whole room. They're beautiful. We don't have an ETA on when those are coming in for Hollenberg School, but those, when they come in, should be, they're from the same vendor, so they should look just as beautiful. They were designed by the staff here. And then obviously we touched on solar. I feel like every solar project takes 3 years here. Maybe that's everywhere. But this has to occur by June of 2026 to get the large dollar amount credit for the vendor to make this happen. And this is going to be a flat utility rate, which will help us perpetually for the next 15 years. While everyone else is increasing their utility rates 20% that you've seen in personal level, we will be flat. And after 15 years, we generate our own energy for free. So the loan is paid off after 15 years. And our existing one, which does 40%, is paid off in 5.5 years. So we should have free energy for 40% in that period of time. And the panels are inverters have a 25-year warranty. So even after they're paid off, we have another 10 years that they can be repaired under warranty. And the degradation is actually almost non-existent. That was one of the big things we were worried about when we first put them in. The data actually, we sometimes generate more energy in 1 year than previous years. Now, obviously that's weather related, but we haven't really seen any degradation for the most part, which is fantastic, which means that the quality equipment is being installed. Talked a lot. Any questions?
I want to add one other thing, related, certainly related to the referendum. When communities or districts go out for referendum, often there's a question that comes from members of the public, and that question is, we understand you're going out for referendum, but why is it that you don't build in capital maintenance project into your operating budget? So I would arm the board with a couple of answers. I would say several things. One, we do. And presentations like this are evidence that we build in annually summer projects that keep our facilities safe and healthy for the students and for the staff on an annual basis. The second thing I would say is, Jason and I talked about it today, we put money back into reserves at the end of every year, and that's where our capital and maintenance reserves are. We've done over the past couple of years, there were some projects bigger than others, but things like the Hollenbrook roof, the RMS main office, the Three Bridges boilers, we've accomplished these things through our capital reserve funds over the course of the past several years. So, and if let's say we do $1 million, let's use just $1 million to make the math easy, $1 million worth of projects every summer. The bond referendum is $38 million. It will take 38 years for us to accomplish, without escalation or inflation, right? 38 years to accomplish the amount of projects a referendum will do in just the time that it takes to do a referendum. And then the third thing that I would say is that when we do projects out of capital and maintenance reserve, as much as they're reserves that come from the taxpayer and don't impact the taxpayer, because we've already raised the tax levy and we paid it, it's money in reserves. When you do a project in reserves, you're paying 100%. So if you're doing $1 million project that's costing the taxpayer through what they've already paid $1 million, when you do it through a bond referendum, you get 30 to 40% of unlocked funding from the state. So when we were approached about, well, build the projects into the budget, those are some talking points for the board. One, we do. Two, and we have over the past couple of years. Two, $1 million a year will take us 38 years to complete, right? We can do it in one shot with a referendum. And then three, when we do it through capital and maintenance reserves, we don't get the unlocked funding from the state. So those are the three benefits that I see of doing a referendum at this time. But this presentation is an example of the planning, the preparation on the board's part to make sure that we keep up with our physical plan on an annual basis. So, anything else about our capital projects?
I'll just share, as a third-year board member, I continue to be impressed at the number of projects that are done. They're done on time, on budget, which in my personal experience is very rare. And they're done very well, and it enhances the atmosphere of the schools. I just want to compliment the administration on that.
And I would pass those thanks and compliments on to the IT department and facilities department that really make all of this happen on an annual basis. They really do great work. And every day they're here doing everything for us. So thank you. I appreciate it, John. Anything else? Matt, can you flip over to our EV bus presentation? Excellent. So Jason and I put together a summary. So we started our conversation at the last board meeting regarding the EV school bus grant, the timelines and the deadlines that we were up against. So we thought it would be good to bring this conversation in this board meeting to hopefully some sort of conclusion about our direction moving forward. So we'll walk you through this presentation just like we did with the last one. But we will start with some history and from where we came and how we got here, today. So for several years, the district has been researching cleaner fuel transportation options, and we have been applying for school bus grants for EVs since 2020 with several goals in mind. Reducing our carbon emissions for school buses, improving the air quality for our students, which means protecting the student staff health and well-being, and certainly looking for some sort of financial benefit and viable ways to replace the aging fleet that we have. Buses right now, our fleet list is extensive. We looked at it today. I can't give you the exact number, but 20 some odd buses, school buses, vans, other school vehicles like maintenance vehicles and our food delivery vehicles for the private providers are all on our fleet list. School buses previously they operated for 15 years. The state government has extended that to 20 years, but in reality, it's tough to get a school bus to 15 years. You drive them every day in all sorts of weather, and it's stop and go every day in all sorts of weather. So it's a lot of maintenance, but we can keep them operating for about 20 years. Even prior to 2020, my arrival here was here in Readington was 2018, Jason's was 2017. We looked at options, we looked at even propane buses that they had at the New Jersey School Boards Convention in years past. So this is something that's been, something that we've been researching for a while. We applied for the first round of grants, were unsuccessful. There were grants provided to local municipal entities. We were not successful for a number of reasons. The most that I remember about our lack of success, and I'll have Jason talk to this a little bit more, was most of the grants did not go to local school districts and surely not rural and suburban school districts. The initiative of the state government at the time was for those grants to really go to places like Jersey City or Newark, where there was a large mass transit population, and they were converting some of the local buses and local transportation over to EVs, right? My recollection is fuzzy on the Volkswagen settlement, but I know that they got in trouble. I remember that much, that Volkswagen got in trouble for their vehicles, and that may have had an impact on the grant. I don't know if you want to talk about the Volkswagen.
No, but I think you hit on that.
Trouble. We'll call it trouble. We weren't successful. However, since 2020, we've continued applying for these grants. So we did receive the federal Clean School Bus Grant. This was $5 billion in federal grant funding over 5 years. And the goal of the federal government there was to have schools apply for grants, receive EV buses, and then put out, the part of the grant was to ensure that you discontinue a diesel bus or a gas bus with electric clean fuel buses. So that was our first grant. That's the electric bus that we have on property and in use right now. And then we were successful with the New Jersey DEP grant, which was $15 million over 3 years. And again, the same rules apply. We received enough funding for 2, but that means that we would have to take 2 gas or diesel buses out of service and replace them with the EVs. So here's our history in brief. So from, I would say, the past year, we received the formal NJDEP award, and remember, anything that was embargoed or confidential means we couldn't announce it to the public at the time. So there was knowledge that we as a board and administration had, but we couldn't publicly announce anything. And these are a listing of the discussions that we had about our EV vehicles from July 2016 to the present. What I'll note here, did you find something? What I'll note here is that there was a timeline here between February and June where you'll notice that the Green Committee or Finance Committee didn't necessarily spend considerable time talking about our bus fleet or EV buses. The reason for that is because the focus of the committee at the time was truly on prioritizing projects for the referendum. If everybody was here for it, if you recall, we engaged the public, we developed a list of referendum projects. The board took, over the course of several days, tours around all 4 buildings, and we had a several hours meeting looking through all the projects and prioritizing all of the projects that we received, and then moving that forward, moving the referendum forward was clearly a priority. February, and then by the time, and we've had to do architectural drawings, we had to go to the township committee for our public hearing to make sure that everything with the referendum got on the ballot for November. So that was priority at the time. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on here. Jason? Slide.
No, and then just before this timeline specific to the state grant. The federal grant happened before this timeline, so this particular part of this screen is really the state grant. The federal grant, we had already purchased the bus prior to this, and that was just the lead time when we got it in December, January.
And that's a good point. I don't want the board to forget that through this timeline, we knew that we received federal grant, and we were working on protocols to put the EV bus from the federal grant into service between the time it was awarded, then at the time we received it, and then the time that we put it on the road. So that bus has been on the road since February, about February it's been in service. So that timeline was kind of working simultaneous to this. Jason had the opportunity to talk with the bus driver. I know that the bus drivers talk to parents and kids about some of the more anecdotal feedback that we're getting from our community. Because you want to talk about this, because you had a conversation with the bus driver.
So we asked the bus drivers who wanted to get trained on it. They were trained primarily in November, December. And then in January and part of December, they were basically driving the bus without kids on it, seeing how it operated in cold weather. And the feedback that we were able to get from the two drivers who primarily drove the actual bus was that, it's a brand new bus. And anytime you have something brand new, it's great. So, it was quiet, it was smooth, you had the heating, the AC, really, the regenerative brakes were a highlight because they could actually leave and almost get back with the same percentage battery because they would be recharging from braking. So that was some of the highlights of the positive. The kids and the parents on the exact route were all positive, nothing really negative. The training was pretty intense. We had manufacturer training as well as training from fire and police on site to make sure everything was safe. And then that took several months leading into before the pilot program existed. Some of the things that they did also find was they saved on fueling time because you have to drive to a gas station, fill up, and then drive back. They didn't have to do that. They just parked the vehicle, plugged it in. So that saved some time. On the negative side, they realized that the extreme cold, on the really cold days, the battery just was not charging. And there was a few days that they could not operate the vehicle. They actually had to take a diesel or gas bus in lieu, just out of concerns that they wouldn't make the double loop. There was also a learning curve with learning how to charge and start and stop the vehicle. All of those have been resolved, and about half of those were probably driver error. So those are the things that happen when you have brand new technology being implemented in a school district. It's kind of like changing smart boards. If you change from one smart board to a touchscreen smart board, the staff have to learn it. It's going to take a little bit. So that was the main feedback. The big thing that came out of the pilot is that the bus likely cannot do midday runs or afternoon runs. So it's only suitable for our morning and afternoon double loops. And it's really just because the battery doesn't last long enough when it's not suitable weather. So in the summertime, it could probably make the 3 runs in the morning because we have 3 runs in the morning. But in the winter or colder months, it just is not doable. So some considerations besides the feedback from the pilot, gas savings. This has been brought up over the years in the committee as well as in the public. On average, we took the actual cost of our gas and diesel, which we partnered with the township for until they had issues with their gas and diesel storage. So now we're buying directly from a co-op. Those are exact numbers. So on our average vehicle costs $6,000 to fill up, versus the estimate on electric was calculated about $3,000. I actually compared this to the California estimate, and we were right on line. It's slightly below $3,000. So you have savings per year of about $3,000 if you transition to electric buses. And our rates are pretty stable now because of how we are doing our solar. So this would be in perpetuity because our rates are not going to go up for the, but we don't have a monitor on the actual charger saying how much it's using. So this is an estimate. Maintenance, our facilities maintenance mechanic basically said that there's not that many moving parts in electric vehicle. So really what you're looking at is tires, and mostly everything else is covered for the 8 years on the warranty, which is the same warranty as a regular diesel one. But you still are going to have wear and tear that you're going to have to repair. So the numbers there, about $1,000, $2,000 in savings per year on maintenance. So, substantial savings. If you think about our buses, we operate around 17 a day. So, per vehicle, that could add up if our entire fleet was replaced. On the flip side, battery replacement costs and degradation and replacement feasibility. So over time, batteries will degrade. And right now, we cannot do a midday or an athletic run with the existing bus in inclement weather. Over time, it should shrink the range, which will make it more challenging. So the concern is in year 9, 10, 11, 12, because we need these vehicles to last 13 plus years, how will that battery hold up? And if we need to replace the battery, will the manufacturer still be producing the battery that we can put in there to replace it if we wanted to? And what would be the cost of that? Or would we have to potentially get rid of a bus early, which is talking about the lifespan of the vehicle? We just don't know the lifespan of the vehicle. But the warranty period is the same, very similar, and there's warranty issues with all buses. We actually probably have more warranty issues with the diesel buses, to be honest with you. We send them back and they sit at the manufacturer for 2 or 3 months. But because there's a lack of parts here, we really aren't sending it back. They just come out and look at things. Other considerations, manufacturer bankruptcy. So this is a real concern if you've been following what's happening with the Canada EV bus manufacturer that pretty much needed the government to save it. If that happened, there could be issues with manufacturer repairs as well as getting parts or service. We purposely chose Bluebird because it is a major diesel, gas, and electric company. So we shouldn't have that issue specifically for Reddington, but I just wanted to highlight that. Insurance and registration, similar. And then obviously the community benefits we talked about with the CO2, wellness, air quality. On the flip side, we've talked heavily about fire and safety in finance committee. We had the police and fire actually come to committee for to review things. They went to training. They've been fantastic to partner with, and we put in some security measures relating to the existing bus. There's more, but that's just a high-level overview. So this is the actual grant financials. This is specifically the state financials. Now, if you're looking at this, we wrote our grant for 2 buses, so that's the left column. To break even, that's what I put on the right side, which is 5 buses. If we rewrote and changed the grant. The financials really reflect the fact that our existing electric cannot support more buses. So the buses draw a lot of electricity. So if you think about like having a lot of things on in your house, and then you turn your hair dryer on, and you turn on the microwave, you turn on some other things, blow a fuse. Well, the same thing will happen with us. So we would need to redo our electric switchboard as well as install a transformer to accommodate mass more vehicles. There are other ways to get around that, but if we do it properly, this is what it would cost. If we do it the other way, we could blow fuses and cause electric issues in the building, which is not ideal from a safety perspective. So these numbers are specifically from an engineer that works for our architect of record. And that is driving the negative that you see, is really that one-time switchboard transformer update of $225,000. Without that, every bus we would buy would actually save the district money. So because of that, it is a net loss per bus until you get to 5 buses or more than 5 buses. Obviously, the more buses you buy, the higher savings you have. And without the transformer update, all of it would be positive. But that's the actual upfront financials, excluding the maintenance, the gas, and the other considerations, battery replacement repairs, that are really more hypothetical because it'd be future things that could occur or not over the lifespan. There's also discussion of cash flow. Michelle brought up that our finances are a lot tighter than they have been in the past because of inflation and us only increasing taxes in minimal amounts to be fiscally prudent with the taxpayers. We've also been doing a lot of projects ourselves without going out for referendum, and we've depleted our reserves to below $1 million. And the township has also been paying us intermittently because of their cash flow problems. So we monitor cash flow very carefully to make sure that we have enough for payroll. To put in perspective, our payroll is $1.2 million per payroll. So we have $750,000 sitting in the bank. We don't get our tax levy, payroll is not possible. So we monitor cash flow really carefully. It gets tight around May and June every year, so we're very careful about the timing of that. But it's just something to be aware of, that if we decide to move forward with this, we have to be very mindful of cash flow, because we do pay for the grant up front and then get reimbursed. So if we are paying for the vehicles and we are paying for the chargers and for this, it will deplete our cash and we will then get reimbursed later on. So there's a cash flow differential plus the other things that we just talked about. So it's something to just be mindful of, as well as obviously, the board decides where they want to spend the money, which is part of the annual budget and building into reserves, where we want to spend our money on that. So the big concept is, what do we want to do with EV buses moving forward? Does the board want to prioritize EV bus grants and continue with the bus grant or other initiatives? And most critical is, do we want to file an extension for the existing grant or reapply? And I listed the deadline there for everyone. And thank you. But also, if you ever want to know where I got all the information from, that's the last stuff.
Thanks, Jason. So what I'll do is I'll ask Mr. Rizzo, the board, if there's any questions. We can take questions from the board. And I don't know if we should sit or go through our presentation. Okay, go ahead, David.
Thank you. So thank you, Dr. Hart and Jason, for a thorough presentation. Do you guys hear me in the back? All right, cool, thank you. Since not everyone watching this meeting will be familiar with board processes, I would like to add some context for how items get actioned by the board and what items get discussed by the full board. The Reddington board is made up of 6 committees. Prior to items being added to an agenda, the item is discussed in one or more committee meetings. If there is a consensus among the committee members, an item can be added to the agenda to be actioned. Other times, if an item needs to be discussed further by the full board, it will be added to the agenda as a discussion item. I'll use the EV bus grant as an example of how the process works. In the July BOE meeting, we reported that the state EV bus grant was discussed at the July Finance Committee. The committee will report it back that there was not enough time to submit the acceptance in the 2-week window given by the state, that the committee would like to evaluate the current in-service EV bus, and that the committee is committed to utilizing district resources on green initiatives outside of expanding the EV bus program. Prior to June 30th, there is no deadline the board had to react to. You may be wondering why the committee, and not the full board, first discussed the expiring grant. I'll provide context using the committee process I just explained. Based on our processes, since an item did not get a consensus to move forward out of a committee, we could bring the item to the full board for discussion. That is what Dr. Hart's presentation was tonight. We will now have a full board discussion in public on the topic. Please note, you will not see a state grant. You will see that the state grant is only a discussion item and not an action item to vote on. This is because the grant did not get consensus to move forward from one of the committees. This is also following our processes. The board follows Robert's rules, which provides guidance on how a board operates. One of the tenets of Robert's rules is no surprises at the board table. But a board member is also allowed to make a motion for a non-agenda action item. This is rare. So occasionally discussions can evolve into an action. To summarize, the board uses committees to decide what items get actioned, and if no consensus is reached, items can be brought to the board as a discussion item. This is where we are today. An additional item on Robert's rules is up to the presiding officer to ensure that the rules are followed and to moderate the discussion according to the rules. You'll see me doing so during tonight's meeting and all meetings. Since I'm discussing board processes, I would like to discuss a policy that is up for second read tonight, Policy 1210, Board Superintendent Relations. The policy governs how the board and superintendent interact. The opening and closing sentences of that policy are key to remember. The opening is, the Board of Education believes that it is the primary duty of the board to establish policies and the primary duty of the superintendent to implement and administer those policies. The closing statement is, in evaluating the effectiveness of board policy and meeting the goals of the district, the board will request the superintendent to make appropriate inquiries, investigations, and reports. So once again, using the item from the last BOE meeting is a good way to highlight board practices in action. The board requested Dr. Hart to investigate and report back on suggestions for classroom book usage. Dr. Hart implemented a task force of teachers, and the Ed Tech Committee was provided with a recommendation from the task force. This is another example of the board functioning well and in cooperation with the administration. I will now open the discussion and ask if any board members will have any comments on Dr. Hart's and Jason's presentation.
Do you want us to sit or sit?
Yeah,
I have the clicker in case we need it.
okay, so that's it.
I have a finance question, or I'm sorry, a budget question. Sorry, write this out. I have a question where, how we pay for our fuel. I know we used to get it from the town. I know we have to go outside of that. Do we actually pay road tax now that we have to get fuel from other sources? Are we paying a fuel tax on it?
So the rate we pay is based on the bid results of another entity. So we don't actually go out to bid ourselves. So it's an incorporated rate based on bid results. So technically, we're actually just paying whatever that entity submitted to the co-op we joined. And unfortunately, because there's not too many stations our buses can get into, we had to find, there's only one actually co-op within a 5 to 7 minute drive to our fleet location for us to fill up. That is on a co-op. Because we buy so much fuel, it goes over our bid threshold. We actually looked at actually bidding it out ourselves. So to answer your question, it's not really defined because of how we're just joining another bid. If we put it in ourselves, that may be directly answerable.
And then I know that diesel vehicles actually make fuel additives to add that they allegedly increase 10% miles per gallon. And they also help on wear and tear for like the turbo and other parts of the vehicle. Are we adding those? Or do you know if the fuel already has those additives in it? Is that maybe something we can look into?
I am aware that if Mr. Pree and Marcy Cole were here today, they would be able to answer that question. And I believe the answer is yes, there are other things put in to make the vehicles operate well, but I am not an expert on it, so I would defer to them to answer that problem.
There is additives added to the
Yeah.
buses.
You do know?
Yeah.
And then I have one more question. I'm uncertain about solar and our meter. I thought that the EV plug charging station was on a separate meter other than our buildings. Is that true or is it joint?
No, so all the meters in our buildings that are attached to solar are net metered. So basically they run backwards if we overproduce, and then if we say went down, we would be drawing directly. So it's a net metering. So the meters that are attached to solar are net in nature. We have about, I want to say 7 or 9 different electric areas. So Not every single one of our junction boxes has a net meter. There are 2 at RMS, and one of the things we looked into for this grant was actually whether the referendum upgrade of our electric panel could be used for this and offset the upgrade we already have to do, meaning the 225,000 would be incorporated into the referendum. However, that electric panel is in a different wing of the building. So it's 2 totally different electric panel upgrades.
So the EV bus is not hooked up to solar? At that.
I would have to look at the specific JCP on the records to see if that one is or is not. So I don't have that direct answer for you.
Okay. I think that's it.
I have a few questions. Thank you for putting together that presentation. The one thing that I was going to ask the same question about, RMS. So that scenario was the electrical upgrades at RMS. Did we also look to the other schools to, if we didn't have to buy a transformer at that 225,000, housing the buses at other schools? Was that looked at also?
We did look into that. The major issue that came up with that is the electric load at some of the other buildings would have been only part of our bus fleet, and parking more than 2 buses at any location is just not feasible long-term. If you see how large our bus fleet is, the only place we can park it is at RMS currently. We did specifically look at Hollenbrook School for maybe 1 or 2 buses, but knowing that anything we would have to do long-term with this would be more than that, we stopped investigating it because we couldn't get information from our electrician.
Okay, and then my other question, when you look at this side by side, and you said the 2 buses, the 5 buses, what is the
Can you bring
cost
that back up?
to replace a diesel bus? Because I feel like that is something that should be considered when we're looking at financials.
Yeah, and you see up there, it's 154,000 per vehicle. That's the cost of a current diesel bus right now. Obviously, these numbers change every year. I mean, put it in perspective, a diesel bus used to cost 115,000 a few years ago, and a small bus used to cost 60, and now that is costing 115. So the numbers have jumped dramatically. And it's not just inflation, it's also manufacturers moving away from diesel buses. So we just, we don't know where the numbers will be probably 2 years from now.
Okay, and then in terms of the, when you were talking about the capital projects that we completed for this summer, there were 2 purchases of buses where there was the 54 passenger. And are they replacing, so I'm looking at the fleet list, so I'm trying to look to see how many these EV buses could potentially replace in terms of what diesel are on the road and will be coming off the road soon.
We did 1 54 passenger, an additional van
Yes.
that we just received this summer. But if that's the fleet list that we use, we provide the board with a fleet list every time we do the budget. If that's the fleet list that we provided to the board during the budget, there are 2 additional vehicles that are not reflected on that fleet list. Is that correct? There are 2 additional that are 54 passenger buses that.
From 2 years ago, because that's how long it took to manufacture,
Yeah.
because the manufacturers had switched over to mostly electric at this time. The lead time is 18 months on a diesel.
So there's 4 buses on that list, 3 54 passenger, 1 van at the bottom of the list that should be 2025 manufacture dates that we have to add to that fleet list.
Take off, because the next 4 to replace are from 2008 and 2010. So there's 4 buses that are definitely in need of replacing at 154,000 each. And so, yes, there's costs to lay out for this EV grant, but we're looking at the full cost of these diesel, are we not? That's what I'm trying to get at.
So two of the vehicles on that list that you're looking at have been disposed of. One had to be disposed of as part of the federal grant, and the other one was donated to the local fire department for training purposes to dismantle. So two of the, but I believe there's still multiple that are 15 years plus at the end of the school year.
Do you know, Jason, if those are the two 2008 vehicles on the fleet list? The oldest ones?
One was 2008, the other one I don't believe was, it had transmission issues.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Something that stuck out to me was the current EV bus that we have is not capable of doing the full amount of runs that we need it to do, but we have to get rid of a diesel for that bus. What's absorbing those extra runs that the EVs wouldn't be able to do? It almost seems like if we have to get rid of diesels to take on these EVs, then we have missing runs, and then we're not able to handle field trips and athletics and things like that. So the other fleets are absorbing those. I mean, the other buses in the fleet are absorbing those. How difficult is that?
That's a good question. We can accomplish, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, we can accomplish a Hollenbrook RMS run, a White House Three Bridges run, bring the EV back to the lot to charge, and then do White House Three Bridges, do Hollenbrook RMS in the afternoon, and then White House Three Bridges in the afternoon. What we cannot do, or we have not done, I should say, we haven't really tested the limits of the charge, would be an additional preschool run, which is right after the White House Three Bridges run, nor midday runs, like let's say, the life skills students want to go to Wegmans or something like that shopping. So what could be missing or lost with an EV bus would be the third tier, which is preschool, and any midday field trip that we have during the day. So field trips, those sorts of things, right? Those are the things, right? Yeah.
Correct, mostly in months of, we tested in December, January, and February. That was the feedback for those months specifically.
I just wanted to mention, that being on the finance committee, we had discussed this many times in meetings, and we had a member of the fire department, our local fire department, that came. So I think not only looking at the cost, we have to look at some of the risks to it. And I could be wrong, but I believe they required us to not park another bus next to it. I believe they required a camera, correct me if I'm wrong, and possibly access to water because of the risks of these EV buses. So I think that's something that we really, really need to be cautious about when we're considering this.
Dan, did you have comments?
I was curious, when we were planning for the referendum, did we include any of these electrical upgrades or transformers to support electric vehicles when we were planning there?
We knew that we needed to upgrade the electric service that's in the older wing of the middle school by the gold gym in the front. So that entire panel and service requires an upgrade. Beyond that upgrade, I don't recall if there was anything else that we needed to do. I know that was the most outdated. That was because our electrician is so old that we are struggling for parts. Beyond that, there was no other requirement. And while we knew that the EV buses were a potential, I don't know if we fully knew the plan during the time of the referendum that we would run into the issues with the transformers and the electric services that we would. So really not specifically for EV buses.
All right, and I know you probably can't answer this question right here, but the rate of the diesel bus breakdowns, I know as a parent that we would periodically have strange buses pull up, and I think the diesel buses, it's more of an unplanned event versus it sounds like here that it's predictable about when the buses are or are not available from an electric vehicle perspective. But I just want to weigh that. It sounds like having a mix of both would provide the kind of diversity of transportation that we could use. And I just want to say from a personal perspective, when I moved to Reddington, it was like a breath of fresh air, like coming from, parts east of here and coming out and feeling you could finally breathe. And the green space that we have that we're so proud of in our township. And I believe that the community is incredibly committed to these green initiatives, noticing that we are a silver certified sustainable Jersey school. We're one of, I believe, 6 Gold Star recipients. I feel like we are a leader in New Jersey for these types of initiatives, and I really want to recognize that we've been at the forefront, and that sometimes that can be a challenge, can be difficult, with the solar panel installation and all of that, but we've really been at the forefront. So, and I believe that's in alignment with our community's goals and our dedication to green space and other green initiatives.
I can't answer your question, Pam, with any kind of mathematical accuracy as to in terms of the rate of bus, breakdowns. Do they happen? Yes. I know that Jason or I will get calls in the afternoon and afternoon run that there's a breakdown and we need to transfer students over to another bus, or we have to send the police out. I know that there are times when bus drivers get in their buses in the morning, and maybe there's, it won't start. I don't have any kind of percentage or rate or anything like that. I think it would be different per bus. We do have some older buses in our fleet. Sometimes we need to use a spare. It happens, yes. But I can't give you any kind of mathematical accurate percentage. Linda probably can.
I was just gonna say, as a previous bus driver, well, one thing I was gonna say is that, do you know, they do have additives that they put in the buses. And I believe, I'm pretty sure, it's also to affect the emission when it comes to the pollution control. So, but I don't know if you could find that out. I thought that's one of the things that the additives did do, that they put in the buses. That was one of the things. The other thing I was going to say is that because a lot of the routes are really long, I really don't know if, to me it seems like these buses are more for city, because the routes are shorter. The routes in our town are longer, and I just think that the electric buses, they can't do 2 routes a lot. We're going to be doing routes to conform with the buses, I believe. That's just my thing. I could be wrong.
Okay. Rich?
My concern would mirror Ellen's, is if the buses can't make all the runs that are required, that you might have to have a spare bus. If you're gonna go EV and you're gonna say this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, which I'm not saying it isn't, but I'm just saying, it would seem you may have to have more. And right now the cost is double of what a diesel is. And to answer your question, it's called DEF, is what they put in all the new diesels, and they will have to have them. And it's just after a certain year, all the diesel motors had to have the DEF fluid, which is supposed to be more environmentally friendly. But I would be concerned about creating a fleet of vehicles that, well, you're getting a grant now, so it's wonderful. There could become a time if you want to switch all the way over to EV. I don't know that you're going to get a grant every year, but you can get yourself into a bind where maybe they don't perform to what we thought they would. We've got one now that's 7 months, and we could have time to really try to keep that bus in service and see how we do before committing to adding more.
That's another question I have. Do you know in this area, is there a lot of towns that have switched to EV buses, or is it mostly more?
I don't have that information. I know we talked, I know that you do. I know that there are some districts that have moved over several buses in their fleet. There are some districts that also received the grant, but I think Jason did some research with other districts.
So this was part of finance, asked that question, and we went to I called every single school district that got this specific grant to get feedback from them. So the closest were South Hunterdon, Princeton. There was a couple east on Route 78, Summit. So those, when I called them, which was, 6-7 months ago, we're just starting the process versus us, we were receiving our vehicle. So we were ahead of them at that point. They also opted for more vehicles. When I spoke to Princeton in particular, they're planning on redoing almost their entire fleet with EV vehicles versus the other districts are slowly moving forward, similar to what we were doing, which is 1, 2, 3 vehicles at a time. A lot of them also have larger fleets than us, so when they are replacing 4 or 5 vehicles, it's probably around the same percentage of our 1 to 2. But the feedback from them was the grant money was available. They didn't really need a transformer or switchboard update. So they were looking to just secure more vehicles, given 18-month lead time on diesels.
Thank you.
So I wanted to add, I actually want to touch on what Jessica said about the safety of the electric vehicles and EVs in general. I have sent videos out to the board for review just to see that as a fireman, we come into hard times putting these fires out with the electric vehicles. Lithium-ion batteries are not perfect. They actually need power to keep them cool. And sometimes they just catch on fire, so I brought that up in the past. And it is a concern that we have to take into consideration. We have to park these vehicles away from the fleet because, God forbid, there is a fire in the middle of the night, no one's around, it's going to take out the whole fleet. I also want to touch what Ellen said. I did lose my track. What were you mentioning about the bus?
The actual automobiles
The
are
range.
Yeah, the range. So and also what Linda was saying, I feel like these buses do better on flat roads. I feel like the hills around here, the batteries use more power to get the fully loaded buses up the hills. And I know we didn't talk about it much, but I think these buses, I have to double check, way heavier than a diesel bus. I'm not sure. I found that I tried to look up some research. They might be heavier, and they could potentially, you could be exceeding the road limit, like the weight limit on the road. But I'm not sure. It's something I heard about, but I haven't really looked into it because it was hard to find specs on weights of the vehicle when I tried to search it up.
About 4,000 pounds.
More heavier, 4,000 pounds. There's 2 tons, 2 tons heavier. So you could be exceeding a road weight capacity potentially.
I don't know the weight
Yeah.
of an electric bus versus a diesel bus. I know that in our bus garages, I know our lifts can accommodate the EV buses, correct? Then when we did all of our work on them and we went underneath them. So I just don't know the answer, but it could be. I didn't do the research, Jason.
Yeah, no, the EV bus does weigh more. Ray Cree actually provided me that information specifically because it's actually part of the federal grant. And our lifts can handle lifting. Yeah.
Jason, I did have a question for you on the cash flow. I saw on this slide, it's, I guess, a little over $1 million we would have to pay up front before we got reimbursed the $640. So how, from a cash flow perspective, would you handle something like that? Because it looks like the reserves are pretty low at the moment, right? And then you just gave a presentation on capital projects, and how would that impact our ability to do other capital projects? So how would that be handled?
So it's pretty easy for the board to even look at. When you look at the financials that you approved, there's a treasurer's report, it's 1 page. And you look at the cash that's sitting there. So what we do is we look at that versus the bills we pay. So the cash is as at that point in time. Things we would do if we got tight would be delay paying bills. So put less bills on the bill list, so that way we don't lose that cash. Remember, our bills are paid now by ACH Wire. We're like the only school district in the county or surrounding area to pay by ACH Wire. So we send bills out and it's instant. The issue is that we lose the interest on that and we lose also the cash instantly rather than the delay. So we would do that. We would also time things based on when we collect the tax levy, because tax levy represents the vast majority. So knowing the time of collection for the town and when they still need an additional month to collect, which happens based on quarters, we would make sure that we monitor carefully that, or delay paying the vendors to the extent possible, like the Bluebird vendor, until we knew we could get the grant back quicker. So we'd have to put in a lot of mechanisms to make sure that it was appropriate, particularly April through June. In the summer, we have very few dollars on payroll because it's 12-month employees, and we get the full tax levy check. So we're cash flush right now, but in April, we're cash close. And you can't delay payroll.
Any other comments? Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the comments I started with. There is no action item on the agenda for this. It was a full board discussion, which came out of last meeting, that it was only discussed in finance, and the request was to discuss in full board, which is what we did today. We have a full board discussion. The grants, there's two things, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, we're given a very short period to accept the expired grant. The state allowed us to do it. If we let that expire, we could reapply in September if the board chooses to. So right now, as of this moment, there's no action item for the board to take. I don't know if anyone has questions, thoughts. Jason, you can correct me on that.
No, I mean, that's, you have the deadline, which is near the end of September. So that's the deadline to reapply. The latest information we have is, whether or not we want to extend the grant. They just want us to be in communication.
So then what do we do moving forward as a member of the finance committee? Do we only discuss it in finance committee? Typically is how we run things, or is this gonna come to the full board?
Well, that would be things like a finance committee meeting. It's not on our agenda, I don't think, for Thursday, right? No.
The topic is on the
It
agenda.
is?
I thought it was a debrief from the prior meeting, though. It wasn't specifically to revisit this. I suppose we can make an adjustment, Jason, so it's okay.
This would be a thing, like, do we discuss in finance and push it forward, or does the finance committee not do it? I don't think, then it would have to go to the next meeting if it, depending on what the finance says at that time, the deadline would have passed on the expiration and would have to go for the reapplication, right, for the reapplying.
Because that is typically how our committees run. I mean, if something is not come to an agreement, or if we do come into an agreement, it's not typically brought to the full board.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Like if we come to a full agreement within our committee meeting, then it doesn't come to the full board,
Correct, exactly,
which is what happened at our
exactly.
last finance.
And then we brought it to the board this time as a discussion item only, because we can't add it as an agenda item because it didn't come out of a committee as a move forward, which is where we're at today.
So maybe building on your comment, Justina, if I understand correctly, there's a new deadline in September.
Correct.
What is the process for us to decide whether we will try to meet that deadline or let it pass?
That would come down to the finance committee again. So then we go through, and the finance committee would make a recommendation whether to move forward or not. And if they chose not to move forward, it wouldn't come to the board for a vote. Kind of like what happened in July.
Just,
So,
I was gonna, sorry, I was just
No,
gonna
go
make a comment. Thank you, that's clear. The only point I'll raise is there's quite a bit of energy around the topic, and so I wanna, is there a report back to the Green Committee or some kind of, how do we make sure that the people that are interested in the topic can stay briefed beyond what we normally do, which is share minutes, just because there's a lot of energy around the topic?
I might have an answer to your question, but I'll say this. If the desire of the board is to have this topic go back to the finance committee, what I would advocate for the board is that the finance committee come out with a recommendation prior to the deadline, which is 9/26, to apply for the grant. So, and this is a little bit of a different kind of protocol for us, because typically, for example, last meeting we put, maybe it's even this meeting, I think it is this meeting, acceptance, application for an acceptance of the ESSA funding, which is a federal entitlement grant that we're receiving. So typically this board has applied for and accepted a grant in a simultaneous board resolution. I think that in order to ensure that the recommendation from the finance committee is something that is agreed by the board, is if we are going to apply, rather than just direction to the administration being, let's go out and apply, I think that if that's what comes out of the finance meeting, I think that we should start a practice of resolving to apply as a precursor to then accept. In other words, if we do a resolution to apply, it almost implies that we're going to accept, rather than just there be a recommendation to the administration that's not on the agenda that says, go ahead and apply for the grant. I'm not sure if I have all of you. In other words, I think we're in this situation because the desire to apply for the grant was something that came out of discussion, not board resolution. Rather, I would say if we're going to move forward, let's resolve to make application by 9/26. We don't have to do it today, just by 9/26, so that we're not in a position where we're moving to accept, but we hadn't had the previous discussion and resolution to apply. Am I making sense?
I just want to add, committee chairs can call for extra meetings
Yeah.
if you wanted. That's just another option.
Top of my list.
Yeah. Just
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Does at least the process make sense?
I
Do
think part of Michelle's question was how the green committee is moved in, and that was not.
I haven't gotten to that yet. So
I don't have a suggestion, I just wanted to put it out there because I feel like we owe it to each other as board members.
right,
But I'll just jump. This goes back to my opening, right? It has to come out of the committee to be voted on as a
Right.
forward, right?
exactly.
So in theory, it did not come out of the committee. In fact, the committee said not to move forward. And we just chose not to put that on the agenda item. Theoretically, you could put on the agenda, the finance committee chose not to do it. Should we vote on it? That goes
Right.
against our processes. So if we meet as a finance committee and we come up with the same resolution or we decide to move forward, it still would not make it to the agenda for the full board to vote on, which comes down to, do you want outside people to maybe join the committee? So through the green committee, you can have people join if you want to possibly give input to the finance committee. But you're in the same situation if we meet on this and it doesn't come out of the finance committee, it's September 26th.
And I'm fine with that. Like, I'm in agreement with the process. I think in order to have the fail-safe, I think that we should think about process in terms of resolving to apply prior to being up against a deadline. That's where I'm at. I think we were up against a deadline in this instance, but we had no prior resolution that said, this is an initiative of the board. And absent that, the deadline passed.
But how could we put that resolution on the board now if it doesn't come out of committee? That's
And I agree with
chicken
you.
before the egg kind of thing.
I'm not asking that. I'm just saying
Okay.
that there's two motions
Yep.
when it comes to grants. One to apply and then one to accept. And I would separate them from now on, rather than having one motion to do it all at once. Because we had one, we could have had one motion to do it all at once.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If a member of the Green Committee wishes to join finance, we would just need to make sure a member of the finance committee was not present. That's the trouble is that we're having, right? Do we have a finance, or I'm sorry, a Green Committee meeting scheduled prior to the 9/26 deadline?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I'm sorry, Beth.
Let me just look at it, that was gonna be the next question.
October 1st is the next one.
Okay, so we're, a lot of time, we're not voting, no resolution
No
today?
resolution.
No resolutions
No,
today?
actually, I have one thing. I appreciate your opening comments. And I also am familiar with Robert's rules, and it is well within my authority as a board member to put a motion on the table.
Absolutely.
And I understand that it's a rare occurrence. You don't want to do that in practice and have surprises at the board table. I understand. But I'm only doing this because this was an agenda item under the superintendent's report. So the public was aware that we were going to be discussing this in public. Generally, that's why you don't make motions from the table without notice to the public that you're going to be discussing that. So that's where that comes about. But I do feel that since it was on the agenda and the public was aware, I would like to make a motion for us to reapply for this September deadline to reapply for the grant.
We actually kind of were expecting that, so Mr. Bohm actually, in case it came up, Mr. Bohm actually wrote a motion, so if you want to, maybe pass this to us.
All right,
Jason
have it.
just
No.
gave it. We thought in case he wrote it, just in case someone chose
This
to.
is
do
like
it.
such a big circus. Like we're dancing around this whole thing. Let's just take a vote whether we want to go through with this or not, and then we can just move on. Let's move on as a board.
Yeah.
All right, what's this?
So I don't know if that motion would satisfy what you're looking for. If so, if you read it, we'll get a second possibly.
Yeah, I agree with that. So the motion is a motion to apply for and accept NJDEP EV bus grant in the amount of $640,000 and to authorize the business administrator to apply for an extension the 25-26 school year. Do I have a second, please?
Anyone have a second?
I will second.
Okay, well, for all motions, we have to ask for any discussion. I know we had a lot of discussion on it, so I'm gonna open it up. Any discussion?
I have a question. Do we do it now or after the public has an opportunity?
No, I think we could do it now. Basically, once a motion's made, we have to do the motion. Motion was made now, is seconded, so we're just gonna go forward with it.
I want to remind everybody, you will laugh at me from a risk perspective. I do feel obligated to mention that risk is a calculation of both severity and probability. And when we look at the data on the risks around EV buses, the risk of fire in a diesel bus is 20 times higher than an electric vehicle. So I just wanted to put it out there that it's highly unlikely. It's the same thing as saying, would I fly in a plane or drive in a car? You know, the actual rate of failure modes in an airplane are much, much lower, but it is much more severe. But we still do choose
Thank
to use air transportation. So that's my example.
Okay.
I
Anyone else?
just wanted to add to that diesel buses only catch on fire when they are running. And EVs will catch on fire when they are charging and or running. So the 20 times is not a good number, especially when you have, I don't know, I had this number a few months back. It's like millions of diesel buses or trucks on the road, tractor trailers, buses, regular light duty trucks, millions. And there's only maybe now tens of thousands of EVs, so those numbers are kind of skewed.
Okay, any other discussion?
A comment? I feel compelled as a finance committee member to restate what Jason said earlier, which is our reserves are under $1 million. We don't have a referendum plan or approved yet, and that is an uncomfortable margin. Thank you.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion that wasn't on the agenda, so I'm just gonna read it again. This is what we're voting on. It is a motion to apply for and accept the New Jersey DEP EV bus grant in the amount of $640,000 and to authorize the business administrator to apply for an extension for the 25-26 school year. So this is basically the grant that was gonna expire last month that they gave us to our next meeting to accept. So we would be voting on either to accept a grant or not. So based on that, Mr. Bowen, can we get a roll call vote?
Ms. Cassidy,
Yes.
Ms. Fury,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
No,
Ms. Menzer,
No,
Mr. Pieros,
No,
Ms. Rad,
No,
Ms. Ryan,
No.
Ms. DePinto.
No.
Ms. Rizzo,
No.
does not pass.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so before we move to the open public items, anything else in the superintendent report, Dr. Hart?
I would just ask, Michelle, I know we have finance on Thursday. I just feel like we got the sense that there's closure to this matter. I know it's on the finance agenda. So I think that when we go into finance, if there's any other loose ends that maybe come from the public, we can discuss at that point, but I know it's a finance agenda item. I don't know if maybe we should discuss if or how it's communicated, but rather, I feel like we have our closure at this point, and I don't know how lengthy we need to go to communication and discussion of finance.
I mean, one thought would be if there are no additional public comments to consider tonight, we could remove it from the agenda.
Possible.
We welcome other feedback from committee members.
We're open to the public in just a couple of minutes. I think we'll hear from the public, and I think if there's any unresolved comment from the public, perhaps we want to put it on the agenda, or we can remove it depending on comments.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
Everybody okay with that? Just kind
I am.
of seeing how things go?
Does that conclude your superintendent
Yes.
report? All
That
right.
concludes my superintendent's report.
Okay, the next agenda item is the open to the public items that are limited to the agenda. There's a second open public forum at the end of the meeting. So if anyone would like to speak on items specific to action items on the agenda, technically, this wasn't an action item, but it is because we added it. So we'll allow any EV bus comments to come in because we did a ad hoc motion. So any comments?
Hi. Carol Handel, right into the township. First, I just want to say taking action on an item in the superintendent's report is not fair to the public, because the reason for having the first public comment section is so that members of the public can potentially influence the decision makers. So taking that right away from us is really unacceptable. So any of us that had comments to be made are, futile right now, so, that's really not acceptable. I'm going to read the letter that Eric Sperling asked to have read, so that it's in the public record. So this is Eric Sperling. I don't know if you want me to write his name in, but I am pleased that the state has extended the deadline for the application for the EV bus grant, and in fact, extended it to an opportunity to receive 5 buses. Unfortunately, I believe that put to a vote, given the tenor of the board's discussion so far, it will fail to pass. I have read the superintendent's presentation on the issue and could engage in hours of discussion regarding the many points raised, but to what end, really? The board will reject the initiative, the lost educational opportunities, the overstated fire hazards, the minimized environmental benefits will all be ignored in favor of keeping the comfortable status quo. The superintendent asks the question whether the board wants to prioritize EV buses over other green and district initiatives. In the minutes of their July 2nd, 2025 meeting, the Finance Committee answered that question with an affirmation. The committee reiterated our ongoing commitment to green initiatives for the district, and the additional funds needed to support any new EV buses may be better allocated to other green initiatives. So now, with the board about to make the clear choice to reject the grant, I call upon the board to fulfill its ongoing commitment to green initiatives and fully fund position number 3044, Coordinator of Green Initiatives and Sustainability, and direct the superintendent to advertise and fill the position. The educators filling this position in the past and the positions that were its predecessor made a meaningful, positive contribution to physical plant operations and education within this district. They changed the trajectories of the lives of some students and influenced their future courses of study to help improve the world around us. Please fulfill the promise and reinvigorate this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?
Hi everyone, Jody Betterman, White House Station. I had a statement to read as well about the electric school bus grants, but since we voted to not do this, I feel like stakeholder input is extremely important. We were all elected here by the voters, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your service. But I feel very disenfranchised, and I'm sure there are people like me who do as well, that we prioritize our beautiful township, our green open spaces, and I feel like my voice was not heard tonight. I'm quite upset about it. So I will just say what I said at last month's meeting. The state already has allocated this funds. They will be used for EV buses in the state of New Jersey. In fact, this specific grant allows 3 school districts in central New Jersey to get this funding. So this money will be spent. It will now be spent in another school district, and that is upsetting to me. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Is there anyone online? Okay, so that concludes our first open public item. We received 4 correspondences as noted on the agenda. Those are with the board office, noted there. So now we're going to actually move into board actions. The first item is for approval of administrative reports. It's a motion to adopt the HIB and affirm superintendent's decision. It's motion 1.01. Can someone please give me a motion and then a second?
Motion, Paul?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion on it? Mr. Dunn?
Ms. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer,
Yes.
Mr. Pieros,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Abstain.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay. The next one is approval of minutes. We have items 201 through 202. Can someone please give me a motion and a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Mr. Bond?
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer,
Yes.
Mr. Pieros,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Abstain.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, the next one is finance and facilities. We are meeting this week, so we do not have a committee report, but there are 9 items to review, items 301 through 309. Can I get a motion and a second on the items?
I have a question, comments on the first, if I may.
Sure.
On the agenda item 3.07, the bus routes, I want to just talk to the fellow board members about this. So I wrote to Dr. Hart and Mr. Rizza, this is something we approve annually. In my experience, what I've noticed over the years is that the length of time that students on buses has been increasing. And I know that at least my family in particular, we were on the 45-minute bus from Three Bridges, home. As I look at the routes, I see that they seem to be growing longer and longer. And it's not, and Dr. Hart explained, every student is planned for, but not everyone is a pickup, so those routes can actually be less than what the time says. My concern was really mostly the preschool. If anyone else looked at those times, I mean, they're on the bus for a very long time. Part of my concern was, they're breathing in diesel at every stop, so that's another discussion. But I had said to Dr. Hart that maybe this is something that should be tracked in finance after the school year starts. Look at the times again, see how long students are on the buses, and if it's something that the board needs to address, maybe with a policy. We have protocol that we try to keep bus routes 45 minutes or less. I think the state gives us like an hour. We have to be under an hour for the bus routes. But it's just something that I feel very strongly about, that we should keep an eye on, because, obviously that's a long time to start and end your day to be on the bus, as a little one who's mostly unsupervised, other than the driver who's trying to drive the bus. So I just wanted to give a heads up to finance and a heads up to policy that this is something that we should probably keep an eye on. And it is, we're a very geographically large town, like that's just the reality. So I know, and Dr. Hart, you answered it very well in all of your comments. I don't know if you want to add to any of that, but I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. So Beth, you're from approving of the routes, you're okay with us going forward and approving it, or?
Yeah, I just had comments around it, yes.
Okay. And that, and then we could theoretically always revisit this in a future meeting if they're longer and possibly get new routes if needed.
Yeah, I would make two recommendations to the board moving forward in regard to bus routes, especially because we have preschoolers riding the bus with more frequency. One, I did write an email to Beth and CC David on the email about the bus routes being created and ensuring that every student that's on the bus route has a stop. And that means that even if you know that you're a parent that's going to drive your child every single day, you still have to account for a stop for you. So in reality, those routes that are 45, 46 minutes, in reality are shorter because not every child takes the bus every day, so they do shrink a little bit. But I would recommend the following two actions. First, I think once, Jason, we can talk about this offline, once the routes are established and we get into the school year, like the last week of September, October, trying to get the bus drivers to give us a more realistic estimation about how long the routes are so we can report that to finance and actually compare the reality versus what comes out of the system. The second thing we should look at is preschool. We have a lot of parents that sign up for preschool, hold the spot on the bus, and a lot of parents choose to drive their 3 and 4 year old. I mean, we oversee enrollment with preschool parents who want transportation, and then there's an under delivery of how many actually board the bus every day. Having the aides on the bus really do help strap them in. So those routes should hopefully shrink, but I think we should get some realistic numbers on those. Report that back to finance before the end of the school year this year. If it's something of interest to the board, we can talk about the protocols that are around our transportation. We do a lot of great things here in Readington that accommodate parent work schedules, different drop-off and pickup locations to daycare centers, things like that. We have courtesy busing within 2 miles. I would not recommend eliminating that. I think we should keep it just because of the nature of our community. But there is something called a transportation waiver that parents can fill out, which is basically a promise that an identification in advance that says, I as a parent will drive my child every day. And if we get that waiver from X number of parents, we can remove those children that we know are not going to get picked up every day off the route and get more realistic numbers of how we can create routes. I think 2 weeks before school, I would not recommend any action right now, but I think, Jason, we should put this on for finance in the future, maybe mid-fall, try to get some realistic numbers to report to the board and talk about any changes we want to make in the future. And getting the data would give me and Jason a solid recommendation to give to the board of any changes that need to be made. Fair? Okay.
So Jason, can we get a motion in a second on that? I don't think so.
No.
Can we get a motion on 301 and then a second? And 309? There's a motion, second? I'll second, okay. We had some discussion, any additional discussion on that?
Sorry about that. We go out of order.
That was me, I'm sorry.
I just had a question, 3.09, what are the different titles? What does that reference?
So this funding is ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, formerly known as NCLB, No Child Left Behind under the Bush administration, formerly ESEA, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. Those words might be mixed up a little bit. Lyndon Johnson, president, the 1960s, movement toward Camelot and the Great Society. Title I are funds that are set aside for student and student programming that target our low-income population. So those things are like Title I meetings occur every year by building, and we allocate Title I fundings for primarily math and language arts instruction, programming for students that we target with that are low income, identified as low income. Title IIA is professional development for teachers. So that grant is used solely for professional development, primarily to send teachers to conferences that are local within the region or within the state. So that pays for their travel and their PD. Title III is funding for our multilingual learners. The entire consortium gets $5,000. I'm sorry, we have a consortium that receives, I don't think we have the total amount yet, but Readington, we do have the total amount.
No, we don't, from the county office.
The county allocates the money. We're part of a consortium. Readington gets $5,000 for their ML population of students. Title III immigrant are students that are identified as port of entry. Title IV is technology, Jason?
Yes, it can also be used on music, arts.
Technology and the arts. So these grant funds supplement our existing programs, so they're add-on programs to current academic programs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, Mr. Long.
Mrs. Cassie,
Yes.
Mrs. Fury,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Pieros,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. Pinto,
Yes.
Mrs. Susan.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, the next item is Ed Tech. We do have a committee report, but before we go to that, we have 4 items, and we get a motion and a second, 5 items. Items 401 through 405, can I get a motion and then a second?
Motion, Paul.
Okay,
One second.
okay, that's committee report.
Yeah, the Ed Tech Committee met on August 11th. The first thing we did was welcome Richard to Mr. Pieros to our committee, and Dr. Hart gave a brief overview of the role of the Ed Tech Committee. Next, we discussed the website rollover. Mr. Belsky gave an update on the rollout of the new website, which took place over the past weekend. That was probably 2 weekends ago at this point. The district had to migrate to a new site because our vendor merged with another company. The tech department will continue to clean up any pages and links that were affected by the rollover. The major website enhancements occurred approximately 4 years ago, and with this migration, minor adjustments were the only things that were needed. Next, curriculum review. So you all saw the curriculum documents that were in the board portal. I'll just give you the brief summary. So for science, K through 5, the revisions to the science curriculum take place in grades 4 to 5 only, starting on page 41. The revisions include unit pacing and change in primary source materials to amplify science. For the health curriculum, 6 through 8, the revisions to health grades 6 through 8 reflect the updates to grade level content that were required due to the new schedule and new primary resource, a textbook titled Teen Health. There have been no changes to units related to sexual health, puberty, pregnancy, and sexually transmitted diseases. Those are unchanged. Teen Health is one textbook for all grades, but teachers will pull out units aligned to the respective grade level standards. For ELA, the all grades summary, the documents were reduced to about 150 teaching points. They combined teaching points and removed others, guided by teacher feedback. Mid-lesson teaching points were added to grades 6 and 7 for writing and grade 8 for reading and writing. Teaching points were added to balance subjects within the document. For kindergarten, removed Unit 7, tackling hard words. First grade, removed Unit 6, reading nonfiction. Sixth grade, added teaching points focused on reflection, shifted Unit 5 from nonfiction to fiction and nonfiction work, and created more of a multimedia focus. For 7th grade, added more specifics to teaching points, replaced more basic teaching points with more complex ones, moved lessons related to speaking and listening standards to be a second part of a reading-focused lesson. For 8th grade, changed Unit 1, previously contemporary fiction and American teenager, will now be life stories, unlocking the big ideas in book clubs and memoir, structuring personal essays. The unit was contemporary fiction and now focuses on memoirs, personally reflective writing styles, and an understanding of the human experience through reading. And lastly, for 8th grade ELA, moved lessons related to speaking and listening standards to be a second part of a reading-focused lesson. For ELA, grades 3 through 5, changed previous wording to, I don't know what that means. Added mid-lesson teaching points to grades 4 through 8 for writing, adjusted the pacing guides. Those I think we went over. Grade 3, removed certain lessons or combined with other teaching points, added additional lessons for pronouns, figurative language, and point of view. For 4th grade, removed certain lessons or combined with other teaching points, added an additional day for complicated teaching points. And 5th grade, writing Unit 2, feature articles to passion projects, removed certain lessons or combined with other teaching points, added an additional day for complicated teaching points. The curriculum documents are on our agenda tonight for approval. Next, we discussed the Reading Practice Review Committee. Dr. Hart reported the outcomes of the Reading Practice Review Committee that was formed after approval at the July 22nd Board of Ed meeting. The committee met on July 29th, was comprised of teachers in grades K through middle school, as well as staff members from intervention, RMS library, and administration. The committee reviewed the resource materials policy 2530, as well as the homework policy 2330, with the goal of establishing a process for a stronger, more communicative process between home and school on independent texts that students are reading. They considered several mechanisms such as classroom inventories, book permission slips, and reading logs. Their recommendation was to implement a reading portfolio that carries through the child's school career grades 3 through 8. This portfolio would be a shared Google Doc where students input the books that they are reading. It is the parent's responsibility to check the log. The reading portfolio would not be graded. The EdTech committee members asked several clarifying questions, such as, would the portfolio have anything on there indicating grade level of book? Dr. Hart said no. Parents should refer to sites such as Common Sense Media or Mac and Via for content and reading level. Is there a loss of instructional time? Dr. Hart mentioned that it may take more time to get this protocol started, but once it's up and running, teachers can have students add to their reading portfolio during a do now. He also mentioned that teachers could use this reading portfolio as an instructional tool. Another question, can there be a checkbox for parents to opt out? Dr. Hart indicated something like this could be added to the drop-down menu where parents mark the document as reviewed. Another question, can we track how often parents check this log? Dr. Hart and Mr. Belsky thought the activity dashboard feature in the document would be the best tracking mechanism. The majority of committee members were pleased with this idea and feel that it will serve many purposes. Next, we discussed upcoming professional development. New teacher orientation is going on this week. Mr. Tumolo shared the agenda. The district is excited to welcome these new staff members. Board members have been sent invitations. Actually, the luncheon happened yesterday. I was going to say it was partly sponsored by the HSA for the lunch, and that was yesterday at the HBS library. The Welcome Back in service, which takes place next Wednesday. Mr. Tumolo also shared the agenda for that. The board members are invited to breakfast provided by the RTEA, the HSA, and administration, followed by a morning kickoff meeting in the Hollenbrook School cafeteria. And then the last thing we discussed, GT Honors and Advanced Programs Regulation. Dr. Hart briefly mentioned that the Gifted and Talented Students Regulation 2464 has been updated to reflect current selection criteria. The previous regulation referred to assessments the district no longer uses. We scheduled 2 meetings, September 22nd and then October 6th, both at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion?
I have a quick comment. I just wanted to note that during the number 4, the reading practice review, in our minutes, that we did have a member who was strongly against this, but I wanted to thank Dr. Hart and the staff for putting this together because the majority did want it. So just thank you for you and your staff for doing it.
I wanted to ask, and I had emailed you about this, so we, you did sort of answer it, but I'm just curious if there's a way that the parent can be notified. Like, can it be through Genesis? Like, how does a parent, kind of like when you check your kids' grades on Genesis, you go in and you would check the log.
So the log will be shared.
It's a Google.
It's a Google shared
Okay.
form.
Okay.
So in committee, I think I illustrated that the best way that I would recommend a parent, check the log and check in periodically would be once the log is shared. The URL should never change. That the URL can be bookmarked in, parent's computer or laptop, and then, when you're online, paying bills, checking bank statements, Facebook, I don't know, just have a tab open and log into the, just click the URL, bookmark it, and check periodically.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I appreciate that being put into place.
I just have a quick question
Sure.
about instructions home for it. I don't think we touched on it in committee, but would it be district-wide instruction, or is the teacher responsible for the instruction to the parents regarding the logs?
We created a back to school night presentation that's in a shared Google folder. I'm gonna talk to the leadership team on Friday about it and about implementation during our leadership meeting on Friday. So more coming, but it'll be discussed at every back to school night with every teacher that teaches literacy, grades 3 through 8.
Any other comments? I just want to thank the 8 teachers that are part of the committee, the administration, and the Ed Tech committee for reading and reviewing and coming up with recommendations. So thank you very much. Okay, on that, can we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mrs. Fury,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mrs. Mentor,
Yes.
Mr. Pieros,
Yes.
Mrs. Brad,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindo,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, next item is personnel. There's not a committee report because we're meeting right after this for our meeting. So on that note, we have 30 items to go through, items 501 through 530. Can I have a motion and then a second on the 30 items?
I'll motion, Pam.
Second.
Good, and a second. Any discussion items on them? Okay, Mr. Bowman?
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mrs. Fury,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mrs. Mentor,
Yes.
Mr. Pieros,
Yes.
Mrs. Brad,
Yeah.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindo,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
So passes.
Okay, next item is our policy communication. We do have a committee report on it, but I'll do the motion first. Can I get a motion and second for item 601?
I'll second Pam.
Okay, all right.
The Policy Communications Committee met on July 30th at 8:30 a.m. The first thing we discussed was the RMS discipline chart. Mr. Charleston joined our meeting to update us on the revisions he and Mrs. Mooney made to the expectations of behavior and discipline procedures for RMS. A statement was added to the discipline procedures that says one of the tenets of RMS is to value the individuality of our students. Living up to that core belief, each incident will be taken on a case-by-case basis, and the administration reserves the right to make decisions beyond the scope of the following guidelines. They reorganized and recategorized the infractions section to make the document easier to follow. Minor changes were made to language throughout to bring it up to date. For example, lunch detention is now referred to as opportunity period detention. New items were added such as cheating, plagiarism, copying, use of AI for cheating purposes, possession of provocative material, use of cell phone, smartwatch, use of any form of technology, school or personal, to create and or distribute any audio, video, or images of students or employees without prior approval. The committee reached this consensus that the document can be added to the student handbook at this time and does not require full board approval according to policy. The second item we discussed was the gifted and talented program regulation. Dr. Hart reviewed the regulation for the gifted and talented pupils to make sure it aligns with policy 2464, ensuring the right students are selected for the right program at the right time. The third item we discussed was our policy tracking document for review of the 2000 series. The committee began discussing their notes on the 2000 series. The following policies were discussed. Policy 2110, Philosophy of Education District Mission Statement. This policy will remain as is for now. A revision may be needed once the new strategic plan is created. Policy 2132, School District Goals and Objectives. This policy will remain as is. Policy 2210, Curriculum Development. This policy will be revised to include statements regarding our curriculum meeting the needs of all students, aligning with the state learning standards and having a development cycle that includes stages of renewal and evaluation. Policy 2220, Adoption of Courses. This policy will be revised to include that we will adapt and revise existing courses to meet the changing needs of students and community. No course of study shall be eliminated, revised, or implemented without the approval of the board. Adoption of courses shall be by a recorded roll call majority vote of the full membership of the board. A copy of our courses will be available to the public online. Policy 2230, Curriculum Guides. This policy was recognized as one that we do not currently have, but some surrounding districts do. Dr. Hart will take a closer look at this policy to see if we will add this to our manual. policy 2240, controversial issues. Suggestions were made to add similar language and organization to the NJSBA policy to further define controversial issues and to include a section about inviting speakers. Further research and discussion is needed before making revisions. The fourth item, advocacy, teacher certification legislation. Dr. Hart informed the committee that he is a part of a working group for the Teacher Certification Reform Act of 2025. Item number 5, discussion of policies that need more immediate attention, tabled until next meeting due to time constraints. And number 6, chain of command sample and discussion, tabled until next meeting due to time constraints. The agenda items are revisions of the 2000 series, and our next meeting is scheduled for Friday, September 5th at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion? Okay, Mr. Bowman?
Mrs. Cassie,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Pierce,
Yes.
Mrs. Rad,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. Pinto,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. We have 3 items, and I think Dr. Hart, you're gonna cover the first 2, and Jason, I think you have the last one, right? So,
If there is, and we don't have to talk at length now, but we had our board retreat last meeting. If there's any overall feedback, certainly we can discuss it at this time. But the retreat, related to the second bullet, is really preparation for setting board goals. Judith Wilson was here for our retreat. She provided us with some information, some handouts to consider, the board's governance role. And the purpose of that is to set us up to have a healthy discussion about board goals come September. I've asked Mary Ann from New Jersey School Boards Association to attend our September 9th Board of Ed meeting. This is the meeting that's taking place at Three Bridges School, to come and walk us through the process of talking about board goals. We may wish to make some substantial revisions to board goals for this coming year. We may wish to keep things relatively similar, things related to the referendum, safety and security, academic achievement, but I've invited her to come. So any feedback about the board retreat, either now via email or in a committee, however you'd like to discuss it, first, and then second, come to the September board meeting with ideas for board goals. We'll review our previous goals and then decide how to move forward with the next set of goals. But kind of open to discussion if you want to talk about anything now, or
I'll just let someone, before the meeting, Dr. Hart and I talked about the board retreat and the self-evaluation. We really haven't discussed it too much as a board. The board retreat, it's more, we received information from Judy, we didn't really share. So one of the items we thought about is maybe each of the committee chairs add that as an agenda item. I think it's possible to talk about the self-evaluation as well as the board retreat. Any comments? So if you want to take it up as an item, so get the feedback from your teams. Any other comments?
I just have one. One of the things that was mentioned was regarding policy making, and we've been following the policy tracking document, and we've kind of been going through it in consecutive order. But seeing that we're now in August and we're just finishing up the 2000 series and about to start the 3000, I went ahead and I populated the rest of the tracking document with all the titles and the policy numbers and the dates that they were last revised. So I don't know if as a committee we want to just go through that before our next meeting to maybe highlight some that we think we should prioritize that aren't necessarily in the 3000 series. This way we can get to, there may be some that are important for this year that we should tackle, and we might not get to them by the end of the year. So I just wanted to make that suggestion to see if we kind of rearrange the way we're going through the tracking document. We can still go through it consecutively, but add some important ones in there from other sections that we might not be able to get to as soon as we move it.
what I can do is move our tabled agenda item about reordering some of the policies up to our first one, so we can discuss in policy first. The other thing that you should know as chair of policy and the whole committee should know is I'm starting to receive more alerts from Strauss Esme. So now, yeah, they're coming through the portal, and actually, pure coincidence, like there's several in the 1000 series that now we have to go back and look at the Strauss revisions as well. So we have to tackle some of those policies that are coming through Strauss, and I think I'm thinking similar to you that maybe we want to reprioritize things. I don't know necessarily how we want to reprioritize, but my fear is that we're falling behind in some of our policy work. So, we should talk about the alerts and talk about some maybe high-need policies first before we decide we want to tackle the entire 2000 or 3000 series. But I'm okay with that if we want to rearrange things a little bit. I know that was a goal that came out of our retreat last year and even this year a little bit too.
So that is a very large undertaking, and I appreciate the policy committee doing this. If there's anything that maybe another board member can help with, just reach out. I'd be willing.
I would also open it up to the full board, since we're talking to the full board. Like, if you're perusing some of the documents, there are some things that even came to my attention as, issues come up, right? Things come up, that I add to my list of things that we should tackle. So if any board member happens to be looking up a policy because of a question you get or something we're discussing and you think that it might be worthwhile putting it on our radar, just email us and let us know that maybe we should look at, gifted and talented, or look at promotion retention or something along those lines. That could be helpful.
Could you share the tracking document with all board members? Would that be okay?
I think we haven't done it before.
I don't know if it would be helpful. Suggest.
Yeah, only because I know, David, you have it. I fear that too many people on one document, especially with its size.
Okay, so
yeah.
we'll just email you.
Can you give like access maybe?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. If it was helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. Board goals?
Oh, yeah. Board goals just come with ideas based off of your reflections, and even look at the self-evaluation on the September 9th. That'll be a meeting where we're going to tour Three Bridges and do board goals and district goals as well. So the leadership team is meeting on Friday. We're going to have a discussion about district initiatives for the school year. We talked about this when we did my evaluation in June as well, so just expect that some of the things we discussed during my eval conference will show up as goals for the district for this coming year. So that's where board goals discussion will happen September 9th. And I think with the convention, September 9th, another key date. Jason, certainly jump in with any more details, but I think that in looking at it, we should have the agenda, the more full agenda that board members can peruse. So you can look at targeted dates that you may want to go down to Atlantic City, whether you want to go for a day or whether you want to go for several days. And then I think by the September 9th board meeting, we need a commitment from board members on their attendance or not. September 9th, the date we discussed.
Yeah, September 9th, we need to run a bill to send down. So if you're able to give me an answer before September 9th, it would be more helpful, but I can guarantee you housing by that date. Otherwise, if you come down last minute, you have to book your own hotel.
Can you give a just update on what the housing is and so on?
We have a block of rooms at the Hard Rock. So anybody who wants to stay over, we have the rooms. We block them off from Monday night through Wednesday night. So Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. So you can stay that long, or you can just pick a day and drive down for the day. Right now, our conversation, we go every year, our conversation has been to be there for all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, leave Thursday. So Jason and I will likely do 2 overnights, Tuesday into Wednesday, Wednesday into Thursday. If that speaks to you and you're like, I want to go and hang out with Jason and Jonathan, come down Tuesday, stay till Wednesday or Thursday. If you want to come for a day, that's fine too. If you want to come down Monday night so you're there early Tuesday morning, and then you leave Tuesday after sessions, that's fine as well. So however fits into your, I know everybody works and has families and lives, whatever fits into your schedule.
Excellent. All right, any comments? Good. Next item is new business from the board. I know we have a green committee report.
Yeah, so the Green Committee meeting, this was the annual meeting that we have in the summertime to set our strategic focus areas for the upcoming school year. Mr. Bohm welcomed Mr. Piros to his first Green Planning meeting. He gave an overview of the Green Committee scope, which is essentially an idea generating committee. The Green Committee is unique in that members of the public serve on the committee alongside principals, teachers, and board members. The goal of this planning meeting is to set the focus areas. Mr. Bohm reviewed the 24-25 focus areas and shared a presentation of the district's accomplishments. Mr. Bohm also shared the brainstorming minutes from the April 2025 meeting, which were ideas generated by committee members proposed as possible projects to work on. Board members gave additional project ideas, and from both of those sources, the group discussed which initiatives would be feasible and attainable for the coming year. So the following focus areas garnered the most support. It's broken out into 3 pillars. The 3 pillars are the Green Ribbon Schools pillars of sustainability. Pillar 1, reduce environmental impact and costs. The committee decided we should focus on the referendum construction, identify referendum projects that save energy and reduce environmental impact, such as HVAC units, window replacement, and window treatments. Clearly identify which projects fulfill sustainability goals by marking them with a green leaf, for example. The committee also suggested 5-year strategic plan development. The district will include sustainability goals when updating the 5-year strategic plan. This would fulfill requirements to receive credits for an action item through Sustainable Jersey. For Pillar 2, improve the health and wellness of school staff and students. Outdoor spaces, we should establish outdoor classroom spaces at each school and support projects already underway, such as the RMS Trees for Schools grant, a potential TBS Walk in the Learning Woods, Hollenbrook School Scout tree planting project around the track. Also, referendum communication on wellness and well-being, similar to Pillar 1 goal. The district will communicate how referendum projects such as paving, playgrounds, walking paths encourage outdoor use and support sustainability goals. For Pillar 3, provide environmental education, STEM, civic skills, green career pathways. The solar expansion and education falls under that pillar. Bring data and key learnings gathered from on-site solar panels into the classroom. Topics such as production levels, consumption, fluctuations, and degradation over time. And then biodiversity audit, school grounds recommendations. More habitats, native plantings, less lawn mowing, and perhaps putting together a maintenance plan. Create opportunity for student-led biodiversity audit with the help from Green Committee members to identify plant species currently on school grounds and make recommendations for enhancing and maintaining a diverse native landscape. Next, we discussed the electric school bus grant. The district was notified by DEP that if more time is needed to implement the grant for 2 electric buses, the board could reapply. The committee discussed how to move forward with this new information. Green Committee supported this project over many years and still supports it. There was discussion on next steps. It was decided Dr. Hart would include this grant opportunity in the August superintendent's report, along with financial analysis, which we saw, about the electric buses, acquisition, infrastructure upgrades needed, and fuel costs. Next, we discussed the solar array, which I know Mr. Bohm gave us probably even more of an update than we had at this meeting, but it's moving along, albeit a little slow. The costs and vendors' availability to secure financing has been a little slower than anticipated. However, they are confident they will find a solution to move forward, and we do have till summer of 2026 to complete this project. And then the Green Committee scheduled the next 4 meetings, I believe. I think we did the full year, just it's only 4 times a year. And those meeting invitations really sent out to everyone. So that's our report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion items?
I have something else under new business just to report on for the NJSBA for the, if anyone else had any other green things, otherwise move on. Okay. On September 29th, the Hunterdon County School Boards Association, the county meeting is happening. It's going to be at the, oh my gosh, I just forgot the name of it, that chalet, Mountain View. Is that right? Mountain View Chalet. I'm so sorry. I was going to say, so Dr. Hart is one of the presenters for the evening, and Mr. Belsky is also. It's about AI uses, acceptable uses in K-12 school districts. So I just wanted to point out that Dr. Hart will be attending.
What was the date?
September 29th. It's at 6 p.m. And you can do virtual or in person. So I know that they send out a lot of emails, but that one did come through recently. And it's free register, you just go and log in and say, yes, I plan to attend. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, thank you. Any other new business from the board? Okay, next item on the agenda is open to the public. Once again, if you have any comments, please step up to the podium, say town and your name. It could be any item on the agenda or off the agenda. No, shaking her head in the background. Anyone online?
I know there's no one.
Okay, so we'll just move on to the next item. It is adjournment. Can I get a motion to, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Can I,
Okay.
can I just remind everybody, I just want everybody to know I emailed the personnel committee of the board to stay after this meeting so we can hold our personnel committee meetings. We don't have to convene tomorrow. So personnel is tonight, right now. So as soon as we adjourn, if personnel can stick around, the rest will stay right here. Yeah, and yeah.
You sent me all this stuff.
Yeah, and everybody else, you're free to go. You're the lucky ones tonight.
We have a
Chair of
motion.
Finance.
Pam, second.
Okay.
Alice, second. Can I get a roll call?
Mrs. Kessler,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
Ms. Menzer,
Yes.
Mr. Piero. Yes. Ms. Rad,
Yes.
Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Ms. Pinto.
Yes.
Ms. Rosa.
Yes. We are adjourned.
Aggressive move, committee.